y da la entrada. Michael Majalahti. Muy bien, Michael. Buenas tardes para todas las personas de Colombia y Latinoamérica. Buenas noches para el país de Finlandia. Bienvenido, Michael, a esta entrevista. Nos sentimos muy agradecidos por estar ante su presencia, que es muy, muy grande porque has recorrido grandes espacios del western, ¿sí? Y muchos de nosotros esperamos que disfrute este espacio junto con los que te siguen y amamos el western.
Hey Michael, welcome to Colombia. Good night there in Finland. We are biggest fans of your work, as we say, and we hope you enjoy this interview.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And, I was supposed to come to Colombia to wrestle about 10 years ago, maybe just over 10 years ago. There was a promoter that he contacted me. His name was Sombra. Wow. And he asked if I could come there, and he had I remember he was talking to some sponsors, Colombian sponsors, that would have helped to set it up and make it possible. But then for whatever reason, the sponsorship just didn't come through and I wasn't able to come. But there was 2 years in a row that he asked me if I was able to come to Colombia.
Oh man, a great day. I will translate. John, hace 10 años Michael estuvo a punto de venir a Colombia. Un sponsor llamado Sombra. Fueron 2 años de negociación, pero pues lamentablemente no se dio, pero miren ese dato. Excelente.
Increíble, porque bueno, esperamos que algún día pueda visitar y bueno, experimentar un poco sobre los fans y todo. Iniciamos con Michael, bueno, preguntándole sobre los inicios del wrestling, que es sobre aquella inspiración que lo motivó a poder impulsarse por la lucha libre, sobre todo algunas personas quienes lo motivaron a crecer.
Okay, Michael, first question. What were the people who motivate you to start a career in wrestling? Who was the first subject or the first thing that happened that make you say, I will do this as a life career?
Well, there wasn't really anybody that really was specifically there was no one person that inspired me. What happened was that I think I was about 6 years old when I first saw pro wrestling on TV. And I was born in this city called Timmins, Ontario. And it's a mining town, 50,000 people up in northern Ontario. And I was visiting a family friend's place with my parents, and I was in their living room. My parents were with the other couple in the kitchen. They were talking, but I was in the living room and I was watching television. And for the first time in my life, I remember seeing pro wrestling on TV. And all I remember is a blonde, muscular, charismatic guy in tights. I don't remember who it was. It wasn't Hulk Hogan. It might have been Superstar Billy Graham, but he was blonde. He was muscular, and he was in wrestling tights in the ring. And all of a sudden, as a little boy, as a 6-year-old boy, my imagination, he captured my imagination. And I knew right then and there that this is for me. This is, at least I'm interested in what these guys are doing. It was like the superheroes come to life.
Hey, John, Sebastián, no tengo acá, me corregirán, porque son datos muy específicos. No fue tanto una persona. El hecho es que siendo un niño de 6 años, viviendo en Timmins, en Ontario, un pueblo minero con 52,000 personas, él recuerda muy bien ese momento exacto que prendió la televisión en la sala y vio a un sujeto rubio en mallas, alto. No era Hulk Hogan, al parecer era Billy Graham, ¿me corregirán? Sí, Billy Graham. Él dice que esa imagen quedó grabada, que era como ver un superhéroe. Y desde ese momento esa imagen quedó grabada y él dijo, eso es lo que quiero hacer.
Wow, increíble. Además, en el paso del wrestling en general, me da curiosidad porque, bueno, cuando inició y comenzó a darse varios prototipos de lucha, de su personaje y todo, fue impulsado por maestros de la lucha libre que fue Lance Storm y Jason el Terrible, en el cual me parece sumamente importante. Y me gustaría que él cuente su experiencia ante cómo es tenerlos como entrenadores y que lo perfeccionen tal en la lucha.
Michael, how was your experience working closely? I told to my friends that helped me because I'm not a bit, I don't know so much about wrestling, but I know about your career as a musician. But how was your experience working with uh, Lancer Stone, and Michael?
Lance Storm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason the Terrible.
Jason the Terrible. How was your experience working with those masters that really inspired you, help you to make your career?
Well, Jason the Terrible, his real name is Carl Moffat, and he's a biker. He's like, that was where he came into wrestling from, was that he was a big biker, like, the Hells Angels type. And I remember that Carl, he was a hard man. When he hit you, he really hit you in training. I remember one time he had me in the corner, when I was only 20 years old at the time, and I was getting trained. 1993, and he had me up in the corner, and he was running the shoulder blocks into my gut, like where you grab the middle rope and you push your shoulder into the other guy's belly. And he was doing that, and it hurt like hell, and I put my hand in the way. And as soon as he noticed that I put my hand in the way to blunt the blow, he stood up in the corner. He's a big man. He was about maybe 6'5", 6'6" tall. So he was a big man. And he looked at me and he yelled in my face. He said, "If you ever fucking do that again, I'll rip your fucking head off." And after that, I let him hit me with everything. Because the thing is, I wasn't brought up, especially with Carl Moffat. He didn't bring me up and teach me in a way that was soft, or that was, how could you say that it was not easy going. It was very hard. It was very physical. And he taught me not to fear pain. Is one of the greatest assets in my wrestling career, that I learned to lose the fear of getting hit and the fear of actually taking punishment. And that's what makes wrestling real, is that if you're a wrestler, and if you don't treat what we do as a legitimate thing, people are going to look at it and they're going to say, it's just a show. It's just a joke. But if you believe in your heart that what you're doing is real, it's going to translate to the audience also. And that's exactly what Carl Moffat, Jason the Terrible, that's what he instilled into me. But Lance Storm was more the technical guy. He was the one that taught me how to be a technician and to do all the moves in a very fluid and in a very, how could you say, like technical manner, that I understood the basics of like chain wrestling and how to apply holds.
Amazing answer, man. I will recover because struck me like a lightning that answer. Okay. No, John le decía que la respuesta se va a dejar dar cuenta. Comencemos. Jason Terrible es un biker estilo Hells Angels. Él vino de esa comunidad, de ese estilo. Por consiguiente, su estilo de lucha era fuerte, muy, muy fuerte. Recuerda muy bien una anécdota, Michael, donde lo estaba oprimiendo. Hay un movimiento, ahí sus mercedes además del tema, donde se lo oprime hacia los shoulders, hombros, casi como para ahogarlo. En ese momento, Michael...
Una dormilona.
Ajá, exacto, una sumisión. Le hizo el touch y él le dijo, si vuelves, aquí pido pues que me perdonen mi lenguaje. Dijo, if you fucking do that again, si vuelves a hacer eso, te destrozaré tus entrañas. Se lo dijo con un lenguaje mucho más fuerte. Y le dijo, aprende a no tener miedo. Y esa fue la mayor enseñanza que le dio The Terrible. Pero Storm era más táctico, era más técnico. Entonces, del uno aprendió la fuerza, el coraje y la determinación, y el otro la técnica. Y esto le permite decir a Michael en las entrevistas que Si no le demuestras a las personas que esto es algo real, van a seguir creyendo que esto es una broma y no. Esto es un trabajo de vida o muerte. ¿Qué respuesta? Wow.
Eso es una experiencia buena. Además, con Lance Storm, tras de que fue su entrenador también, Michael se enfrentó ante él. Yo recuerdo que fue como en el año del 94, que, o sea, Lance Storm se dedica a ser más táctico y enfrentarse entre alumno y maestro fue una experiencia totalmente grande. Además, le pregunto ahí sobre aquella lucha, ¿qué recuerdas? ¿Alguna anécdota de ella? Y también sobre el wrestling actual, en el que usted ve a un luchador que está recién ingresando y que está aprendiendo, ¿a cuál le gustaría de decir, me gustaría ser como mentor tuyo porque sé que tiene futuro?
Ese entrenamiento, Michael tenía 12 años y fue en el año 93. Pues, ¿te hace cuenta? Ok. Lance Storm. Michael, John asked you what is the memories, the memoirs that you had in that moment of that fighting, that wrestling match between you and Lance Storm. That is one of these defining moments of when the trainer and the pupil face each other. How was the memories that you got for that encounter?
Well, I have to say that Lance made it very easy for me, because the thing is that, you know, we were training partners at the gym for 1 year. We went 3 times a week to the gym to train, and that's where we became friends. And one day he said to me that I see the passion that you have for pro wrestling, and if you want, I will train you. He never asked for a penny of my money. He trained me out of friendship. And when I had my first match, Lance was my opponent because he wanted to give me the best match possible that I can start my career. And it was 7 minutes on the nose, exactly 7 minutes long, the match. And he beat me with a jackknife power bomb. So into the power bomb, and then he floated over with the flipping over with a bridge where, you know, he pinned me to the mat then. And it was, you know, he wrestled, how could you say, to my level. There's a saying in our business that you're only as good as the guy that you're in the ring with. It's a saying that we have. And it means that you have to wrestle to the ability of your opponent. You can't wrestle past his ability, because if you outshine him so badly, he's going to look like shit. And if you beat somebody who doesn't look like anything, if you beat somebody too easily, then in reality, you've beat nobody. You've beat somebody way too easily to make it competitive. But when you wrestle to their level, you bring yourself to where they're good at, and you wrestle according to their ability. And that's what Lance did with me. And that's why for 7 minutes, he could have eaten me alive inside of 2 minutes, inside of 1 minute, if he wanted to. But he was gracious, and he wanted to be a friend, and he wanted to help me out in the sense that he made me look as good as possible with a skill set that I had at that time. For 7 competitive minutes. And the good thing about it is that when we came back to the dressing room after the match, all the guys clapped. The veterans, the guys that have been around for a long time, guys that are newer, but everybody was clapping. And at the end of the night, they said, you know what? You guys had the second best match tonight. The best match of the night was Chris Jericho against Beef Wellington in the main event.
Awesome.
And we had the second best match of the night. But that's because of Lance.
Eso lo hablaremos más tarde.
Michael, as a metal fan, of course, I love your work, and I love the work of Chris Jericho. That's my emotion. Okay,
Yeah.
We'll translate. Bueno, creo que ahí se dieron cuenta, pero venga, les cuento. En ese match se logró un lenguaje entre entrenador y pues esto, pupilo, entendiendo que ellos entrenaban 3 veces a la semana y nunca le cobró una clase, era de amistad. En el wrestling hay un dicho que se dice que siempre tienen que luchar al mismo nivel. No puedes sobrepasar las habilidades del otro, porque si tú las sobrepasas y lo destruyes, quedarás como que tú fuiste una cheat, o sea, tú fuiste una porquería con tu oponente. Pero si tú demuestras que tus habilidades son menos que el otro, quedarás como que le regalaste la pelea. Entonces hubo ese lenguaje. fue tan buena esa decisión que la pelea duró, el match duró 7 minutos. El match duró 7 minutos y pudo haberlo destrozado Lance al minuto. De hecho, hay un movimiento, bueno, acá me ayudarán sus mercedes, creo que Sebastián lo entendió, que hizo un jab y después del jab hizo un throw, creo.
Powerbomb.
Un powerbomb, que eso es un movimiento que pues define la...
Lo alza y ¡pah!
Exacto. ¿Qué sucede? Al llegar al dressing room, al llegar al vestidor, todos los peleadores, veteranos, nuevos, aplaudieron y dijeron, tuvieron el segundo mejor match de la noche. Okay, Michael, after that amazing story, John got the second question. Looking at the newcomers, what wrestler in particular make you say, I will better train that guy? It's interesting. Or that woman, I don't know.
Do you mean like some names in the wrestling business right now, like that are active, or how do you mean? I didn't quite understand the question.
New wrestlers, newcomers in the wrestling industry right now that you watch and you say, oh, I would like to work with him. I would like to train him or train her.
Oh, in other words, that I'd like to wrestle against them.
Espera, John, ¿entrenarlos o luchar contra ellos?
Ambos.
But train them or wrestle?
Okay, well, the thing is that today the wrestlers, I'll tell you what the problem is with today's wrestling. And the thing is, it's like a universal problem that I think nowadays the millennial generation of younger wrestlers, whether they're male or female, but they're fantastic athletes. Okay, they're much better athletes than my generation, and that means that they can do things with their bodies that we couldn't do back in the day. They're just simply, even the Marines. If you think about, I was talking with one former bodyguard, and he said that, he's got a lot of friends in the United States Marines. And he said that the Marines today, the young guys, they're just fantastic. Their condition is way beyond, they're almost like superhuman. But the thing that separates the people, the generation today from my generation is that you don't have, how could you say, you don't have the superstar appeal behind the persona, the character, the actual character of the wrestler doesn't interest people enough that there's no John Cena, there's no The Rock, there's no Stone Cold Steve Austin, there's no Ric Flair, there's no Hulk Hogan anymore. And no wrestler has risen to that level since John Cena. And I think the reason for this is because that the millennial generation was taught a slogan that they put on t-shirts, and the slogan is kill egos. You have to kill your ego. Now, there are some times in training where you must become first nothing in order to become something. In other words, you have to empty your mind. You have to say that I don't know anything, please teach me. But when you become a professional at something, unless you have a really strong, I don't say big ego, but unless you have a strong ego that demands that you become the best at what you do, you won't have the hunger to reach for the brass ring and to be more than the guy next door. You won't be competitive with the people around you, because the thing is that you're just trying to get along with everybody. When you kill your ego, what happens is that you become a part of the herd. It's like a large herd mentality. Everybody's just a bunch of sheep, and you're just trying to fit in with all the other sheep. And the problem there is that nobody rises above and becomes more. And that's what's happened with the guys today. And that's why it's a really tough question that you posed to me, because I see so many people who've got great talent, and it's not about the talent. But the thing that the guys need today is to be taught how to harness their ego, how to manage their own ego, and to become hungry, to go out on a limb and to take a chance at maybe pissing somebody off and stepping on some toes in order to become more than the other guy. That's the challenge. So I can't give you any single answer. I can't tell you any single wrestler that I'd like to face anymore, because the thing is that they're all like, maybe not everybody, but there's so many of them that are really good. And it's not about their technical prowess. It's about all the other stuff they do, which doesn't make them memorable. People don't remember who they are, but they'll still remember Macho Man. They'll still remember Jake the Snake. You'll still remember Hulk Hogan. You'll still remember the old school wrestlers, but you won't remember what match you saw 1 month ago on AEW Dynamite or on WWE. You won't even remember those matches anymore because they're interchangeable. They're nondescript. They don't touch your emotions. All they do is they trigger like a dopamine rush in your brain when you see a spectacular move, somebody jumping off a ladder. All it does, your brain goes, wow. And then in your brain, the next thing your brain says is, what's next? Give me the next thing. Your brain doesn't care because your brain it's the dopamine. It comes in spikes. It just goes up and down, up and down, up and down. But the thing why the old school wrestlers, the reason why that they captured your imagination is because they touched your feelings and they touched your heart. That's why you still remember Macho Man Randy Savage. That's why you still remember Hulk Hogan. That's why you still remember Andre the Giant, because they were bigger than life personas. Not so much great athletes, even though they were good athletes, but they were bigger personas than they were athletes.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, John. Dice Michael que es muy difícil contestar eso. ¿A quién le gustaría luchar o a quién le gustaría entrenar? Porque los nuevos wrestlers sí, digamos, son mejores atletas, superhumanos. Lo dicen no solo personas de su ambiente, sino, por ejemplo, Marines o guardaespaldas diciendo, no, las habilidades que tienen ellos son increíbles. Pero hay un problema. La nueva liga viene con una camiseta que dice Kill Your Ego, mata tu ego. ¿Qué sucede? Al matar ese ego no se genera esos combates memorables que sucedían antes. Dice que para lograr esos combates y esa memorabilia, ellos son entrenados para primero sí, o sea, los antiguos, si tienen que matar ese ego, generar esas habilidades, generar ese personaje, vamos, como esos elementos que los destaquen, para ya después obtener con esas habilidades, llevarlas al nivel donde puedas decir, destruí a mi enemigo, destruí a mi oponente, y no solo con las técnicas, sino con el personaje, con la historia que se crea. Dice que no podría mencionar nombres de con quién le gustaría luchar, porque los nuevos combates generan una sensación de dopamina que tú dices, wow, qué gran movimiento el que acabó de hacer este wrestler, quiero ver otro, pero nunca recuerdas el nombre de las personas que batallaron hace una semana en las ligas. En cambio, con ese entrenamiento que va mucho más allá de lo atlético, aunque sin ignorar obviamente que los grandes nombres que ya mencionó sí eran buenos atletas, si no se logra entrenar esa otra parte, no se van a escuchar esos grandes nombres del pasado, y es por eso que él no contestaría esa pregunta.
Okay, good.
Okay.
By the way, the name of the promoter in Colombia that approached me back then was Sombra Espinosa.
Promotor que pues se hizo todo el papeleo para traer a Michael.
From Bogota.
De Bogotá.
A few of my friends went to wrestle for him, so I know people that have gone to wrestle in Colombia for this guy.
Yes, in fact, last year there was a match here in Colombia. The fanatics here are savage. Both of my friends, they love wrestling so much. Even, for example, the cinemas stream the matches, and people pay the tickets. It's crazy.
Oh, nice.
Acá la fanática era muy grande, que ya se habían hecho unos matches en Colombia, y que incluso los cines pasan los matches. La gente paga la boleta. Okay.
Gracias,
Okay.
John. Saludos, Andresito, que es nuestro traductor. Hola, Michael, ¿cómo estás? Saludos acá desde Colombia. Michael, me complace mucho que una leyenda de tu altura esté con nosotros el día de hoy. Quisiera preguntarte un poco sobre esos inicios en ese slam finlandés, lo que vienes haciendo desde hace un par de años. ¿Cómo generar esa cosecha en nuevos jóvenes debido a que hoy en día los luchadores o los posibles luchadores tienden a emigrar hacia Norteamérica? ¿Cómo sostenerlos en tu país y decirles, entrena tu estilo europeo, que es el estilo, el match point noventero, que creo que fue el mejor? ¿Cómo conservarlos en Finlandia y cómo cosechar ese nuevo equipo de jóvenes allá en tu país?
Okay, Michael, John first tell you that it's an honor for him as a wrestling fan that I see you as a legend, that he's humble about that. And he asked you, how was your work in Finland? Not only wrestling in Europe, but defending and teaching, I don't know, the athletes, the wrestlers from Finland. So don't travel to United States to keep the learnings from Europe, the style. So don't lose that tradition, but in Finland and in Europe.
So the question is, what was it like to teach people in Finland, you mean?
Yes, sort of. Teach and restaurant and preserve those rules, those styles. Tradition.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, there was no pro wrestling there's no culture for professional wrestling in Finland. The first time we've had wrestling on TV in Finland since the 1980s. WWF at the time, right after WrestleMania 3, they started a show around 1989, 88, 89 maybe. They started a show wrestling on television in Finland. And then in the 1990s, we had WCW at the end of the 90s, and we had New Japan Pro Wrestling on Eurosport on the TV channel. But there has been no domestic pro wrestling really in Finland. There are some documents and documentation that, for example, in the 1950s or whatever it was, some circus acts came through Finland where some international wrestlers came to the circuses to wrestle there and to entertain the people. But it was 2003 that for the first time we organized the first promotion in Finland called Valhalla Pro Wrestling, VPW. And I was the match booker and the main trainer, the head trainer of that. My very first class of students was in 2003. That's when we actually started the pro wrestling business in Finland. So, the business here is under 20 years old. It's 18 years old in Finland. We don't have a tradition here for wrestling. So it was very hard to get off the ground because, Finland used to be under Russian rule, and we were under the Swedish for a while. But I think from the Russian period, people have a very strong, or at least when I moved here, and even to some degree today, there's still a very distinct socialist mentality with a lot of the politics and also even the way that people think in business in Finland, a certain socialistic sense of doing things. And because of that, it's very difficult to introduce new phenomena and new things to this culture and to have these old traditional businesses support something new. It's very difficult to make them believe in something new, because what they'll do is that from year to year to year, you'll have these different summer festivals and these different big events, and you'll have the exact same things present at these events. You'll have ice hockey, or then you'll have the same artists, the ones that are always on the radio, playing on the radio and things like this. They won't take a chance a lot of times with something new, because it's only 6 million people. It's not like Germany. Germany has so many more. It's like, 10 times more people than we have here. But because it's only 6 million people, it's a very hard-fought demographic. It's very hard to make your money here. And I think that's why they only want to do surefire things, things that are more than likely going to draw money 100%. And that's why when we introduced pro wrestling to Finland, it was very difficult. Even to this day, it's very difficult to get funding or to get sponsors or to get people to buy into it, like from a business standpoint. And that's the biggest challenge with wrestling in Finland. If you want to translate that first, I'll answer the question about the training second.
Okay.
Yes.
Esto, John, ambos, es un tema complejísimo, porque en documentos históricos, en documentales, se demuestra que sí en los 50s en Finlandia llegaron, se instalaron una especie de circos donde se mostraban acrobacias, que era, digamos, como la primera forma de mostrar una especie de wrestling. Sí, obviamente en los 80s llegó el wrestling a la televisión en los canales. Creo que ambos oyeron las ligas, ustedes saben más del tema, y no solo las ligas estadounidenses, sino también la japonesa. Pero en realidad hay 18 años de historia de wrestling como tal, Valhalla, el movimiento Valhalla, en Finlandia. ¿Por qué? Finlandia antes vivió ocupada por Rusia y un tiempo por Suecia, y la cuestión política que todos conocemos de Rusia impedía que formas de deportes foráneos llegaran. Esa cuestión política fue la que impidió, pues, que un deporte que era considerado, ya sabemos, de Estados Unidos, llegara allá. Finlandia no es un país muy poblado, son 6 millones de personas. Es muy difícil, nos está explicando acá Michael, lograr que los sponsors apoyen tipos de cuestiones que son nuevas para ellos. Lo mismo se está dando, y eso me parece increíble la respuesta, no solo en la lucha, sino por ejemplo en la música. Es sorprendente, porque le voy a preguntar sobre la otra faceta de Michael. Y que aquí la pregunta más que todo de John Sebastián es cómo se entrena bajo esas circunstancias. No cómo se defiende una tradición, sino cómo se entrena bajo esas circunstancias.
Genial.
No, aparte de darle también la palabra a Sebastián, hay algo que me inquieta que mencionó, que en a Valhalla Wrestling, que es la parte de Finlandia, en el 2004, yo no sé si estoy mal, y en el 2006, porque yo sé que Valhalla Wrestling ya no existe, pero en el 2006 Pro Wrestling Finlandia, eso es algo que van con orden cronológico muy genial, además porque muy pocas luchas se encuentran por el internet en ese año, porque yo sé que para Michael son memoriales aquí en la mente, y esto es algo que nos puede comentar sobre esos años, esos pasos, pero claro que cómo lo considera él, si considera unos buenos momentos o fueron momentos en el que alguna vez debió mejorar.
Okay, Michael, John Hatenho asked you, what are your memories in the years 2000s with the pro wrestling back in Finland? The question is because John was searching in internet for some matches. He found some, and he want to know mostly if there was good times, there were harsh times, they were, I don't know, you got great memories, or I don't know, harsh memories about that period in specific.
So what period? The beginning, you mean?
Yes, the 2000s.
Well, the thing is that the thing with my first class in 2003 was this. I had about 20 students, as I recall, and some of them were, I would say, like, the word is opportunists. I had a few students who, because the promoter at the time, he ran into financial troubles inside of a half a year. Under a half a year, he went bankrupt, actually.
Oh,
And he couldn't pay me my salary as a coach to train these guys. And I was training them 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. For 6 hours a day, I was training them. And the thing is that because of the, how could you say, the opportunists that were, you know, there was a few of them, just a few of them amongst those early students. What they did was as soon as I told the promoter that, you know, if you're not going to be paying me, I can't continue doing this. And they jumped in like snakes. They, like rabid hyenas, they just jumped in and they poisoned the waters between the promoter and between myself, you know. And for a long time, then that promoter, he went bankrupt. And one of the girls that I had in training, she became the next promoter. Her father owned a t-shirt business in Finland. And she operated the wrestling part of it from her father's office, from the t-shirt business. And then my former students, you know, they would tell her all these different lies about me. And, you know, the StarBuck's a piece of shit. And he's this and he's that and everything. Like, I don't even know what all they told her, but she came to me in May of 2005. And she said, I can no longer control the dressing room. I cannot control my wrestlers anymore. They won't even listen to me. They're completely disrespecting everything that I say. And she said that if I make you the booker, if I make you the guy in charge, I know that you can get them under control. And that's exactly what happened. She gave me the book and I became the booker in May of 2005. And immediately the guys that had turned against me in the beginning, they left the company as soon as they heard that I was taking the control. And this is why in Finland, for some reason, there have been throughout the years, there have been people who have been like snakes. I've had good people and I've had shitty people. I've had good students and I've had students that have appeared to be good. They've appeared to be, you know, like, how could you say, teachable, but then they've proven themselves to be snakes in the grass. And I've been stabbed in the back so many times in the past 18 years in this country alone in wrestling. The people that I taught have turned against me many times. I'm not saying everybody, just some of them. And for whatever reason, there's a thing in Finland. It's very common that Finnish people can be very jealous of one another. For example, if your neighbor has a BMW, a really nice car, and if you don't have that kind of car, maybe you only have a Toyota, what you'll do is you'll take your keys and you'll scratch his car just because you're so jealous that he's a piece of shit who has a BMW and you cannot afford it. So you want to make him feel even worse by just scratching up his car. And then he's going to walk out the next morning, see his car all scratched up, and he won't even know who did that to the car. And that's very common as a mindset in Finland, where there are some people that will be, they're so small in their minds that they will be opportunists and they will try to hurt you. They will spread lies about you and things like that. And like I said, in the past 18 years, there's been many of them, I would say, or several of them who have done this. And I don't mean to say that all of the people are like this, not at all, but some of them are. And unfortunately, they have been people that I have trained. And probably around the world, maybe in different cultures, different countries, maybe there are similar stories, maybe in a different dojo, or somebody who's taught, let's say, jujitsu or something, you know, maybe they've turned against their sensei. I don't know. But I think that in other countries, if this happened to, especially the pioneer of, let's say, a martial art, there are countries where you would end up probably, having your neck broken or something if you went and did something so disrespectful. But for some reason in this country, I don't understand what the mentality is, but there's been so many of them that have done the same thing over and over again throughout the years. Different people, but they've tried to do the same thing. And that's why I have bitter memories and I have good memories. I have shitty memories and I have beautiful memories. I have both because of this phenomenon, because of the way that things have happened, because of this character trait in a certain amount of the people that I've trained.
Michael, that's
Wow.
hard to listen, but that's great. I had read about that kind of behavior in the metal community. I don't know. I am biggest fan of the metal community in Finland, and I read about those histories of backstabbing men and as harsh. But I will tell to John. I will translate. John, dice que tiene buenas y malas memorias porque cuando comenzó con esto, resulta que eran 20 personas que entrenaba 4 veces a la semana. Resulta que el primer promotor que tuvo entró en bancarrota. Ocurrió un hecho que al entrar en bancarrota, no todos, pero algunos de los alumnos comenzaron a hablar mal de él, de la nada. Y él dice que los ve como oportunistas. Creo que sus mercedes sabrán quiénes son. La persona que pasó a controlar después la liga era la hija de un luchador. Y lo hacía era una luchadora, obviamente. Y lo hacía desde la oficina del papá. Ella le dijo, Michael, no puedo controlar los vestidores, los lockers, porque todos están hablando mal de ti. Creo que si tú llegas a manejar esto, y ahí ya estamos hablando del año 2005, si tú llegas a manejar esto, ellos van a atenderte. Nada, resultó que la gran mayoría que pues él descubrió que estaban hablando mal de él, se fueron en contra. Y eso genera, digamos, el hecho que la liga allá en Finlandia no haya...
Discordia.
No, y la trascendencia. Dice que en otras culturas, él, pues como luchador, si por ejemplo en otros países tú eres desleal a tu maestro, incluso puedes recibir penas duras, sanciones duras, porque son cuestiones de respeto, de superioridad y eso, pero él no entiende por qué en Finlandia no se da así. Dice que no todos, que él ha tenido buenos recuerdos y malos recuerdos de esa época, pero que lamentablemente por esa cultura, y él lo explicó con un ejemplo, que es de que si tú tienes, si tu vecino tiene un Ferrari y tú un Toyota, entonces tú vas y le rayas el Ferrari al vecino y el otro día te paras al lado del carro. Dice que lamentablemente ese tipo de cultura es la que se maneja en esa liga. Entonces una historia pues a veces las batallas más duras en el wrestling se dan en otros campos, ¿no? Y es muy triste que pues a Michael, que es el maestro, varios de las personas que él entrenó lo traten así. Oh man.
Oh,
That's harsh.
man.
Okay.
Let me just say this, because this is really important. Doesn't matter what culture you come from, but I come from the old school. My father was a minister. He was a preacher. And there's one thing that my father taught me that's carried through my entire life. And that is that you must be a man of honor. I don't care who you are, but if you have no honor as a man, you are worthless. You are completely useless. And I will have no respect for you if you have no honor. Because if I can't trust you, and if I can't trust your word, then I may as well just throw you away. And this is the one thing that the older that I get, and now I'm 47 years old, and the older that I get, I only want to surround my life with good people. The students that I have right now, they're good people. Because the thing is that I'm not just a wrestling coach. I'm also like a second father to my students, because you're teaching them life lessons. It's not just lessons about wrestling. You're teaching them about philosophy. You're teaching them about life and how you have experienced the wrestling business and how you have understood human nature to be. And in that way, you become like a father to them. And the good thing is that when you can teach them in a way that they will respect you, that they will listen to what you have to say, and when they speak of you well. When they look up at you, you can see in their eyes that there is respect there. That's the kind of person that you want to surround yourself with, because life is short. You don't want to have backstabbers and pieces of shit hanging around your life. It's not, life is just too short. Your life is going to go to waste if you surround yourself with the wrong kinds of people. That's why I'm saying that I don't care what culture you come from. I don't care if you're South American. I don't care if you're Asian. I don't care if you're African. I don't care if you're American. I don't care where you're from, European. But you must be a man, especially as a man, because we're all men here on this channel now, on this interview. And that's the biggest challenge, that a man who doesn't have respect is nothing. If your friends, if the people are in your community cannot look at you, and when they look at you and they speak of you, they have respect in their eyes, in their heart, in their voice, then what good are you? That's just a reminder. I just wanted to say that.
No, that's a great lesson. Ok, voy a traducir esto. Dice que quiere darnos un mensaje, entendiendo que él no, como coach, no solo es un coach, sino es un padre, un segundo padre para sus luchadores, y que ahorita que tiene un buen equipo, y ahorita tiene unos buenos muchachos. Dice que el papá de él fue ministro. Y él dice que le dio una lección muy importante. Dice, no importa la cultura de donde vengas. Si tú no tienes honor, tú no vas a generar respeto en las personas que están contigo. Y si tú no logras que esas personas te miren con respeto, te traten con respeto, entonces tú no has logrado eso. Dice muy bien que la enseñanza del wrestling va más allá de la lucha. Dice que va con un sentido gigantesco de espiritualidad, y él entiende muy bien que él es un segundo padre para estos luchadores, y que todo esto que ha ocurrido le ha permitido, digamos, generar como el roster ahora de luchadores, de como esas nuevas potencias que se vienen ahora, que yo creo que era lo que le interesaba saber a John Sebastián, esas nuevas potencias que se vienen en la liga de Finlandia. Entonces, es resumido, el honor para que te den respeto.
Muy bueno. Gracias, Michael, por ese consejo muy importante. Sebastián, ¿puedes continuar?
Michael, cuéntanos un poco sobre esa trayectoria que tuviste en Japón, el cómo trascender desde un país europeo, llegar a una liga tan fuerte en esa cultura nipona. Tengo algunos recuerdos con quizás algo de la vieja escuela como Yokozuna, o ya algo más contemporáneo como el mismo AJ Styles o el mismo McIntyre, que hoy en día es campeón de la WWE. Pero, ¿qué te motivó a llegar a esa liga japonesa y cómo lo hiciste? Porque esa transición no es fácil.
Okay, John gets a question. Michael, what was it for you to transcend from Europe to Japan? How was the memories to be on that lead, to fight amongst that different styles? I don't know, what are your memories about your years in Japan?
Well, it's the best time in my career, because Japan, for me, everybody has a goal in their career. You should have a goal. Mm-hmm. I tell my students, when you get into the wrestling business, you have to think of what you want to achieve. Now, some people, and I think a lot of people, would like to go to the WWE because it's the biggest company still in the world. But for me, that was never my career goal. My career goal was always Japan. And there's a saying that you might have heard before, sweet 16, that let's say when a girl, when she's turned 16 year old, they say that she's like sweet 16. And but for me, Japan was my 16th country. I have 22 countries now in pro wrestling, but Japan was number 16. And for me, it was my number one career goal. Now, I never thought that maybe I would be a star in Japan one day. I just hoped that I could make it there one time to say that I wrestled in Japan. But the thing is that what happened was I booked Tajiri from WWE. I booked him in Finland in 2010 in February. And I had a match with him here. And he and I had a great, fantastic match. The crowd was just going crazy. And after the match, Tajiri, he said to me that, your charisma is so strong that I think the people in Japan would like you. Would you like to go to Japan? And I said, yeah, I'd love to go to Japan. And the thing is that I didn't know this at the time, but I made such a big impression on Tajiri with my wrestling and with my persona that he went back to Japan and he made this company called Smash. And his concept for the company was that he would have different nationalities from around Europe and from around the world come into Japan and wrestle for his company. It would be an international style company. And the thing is that I didn't know it at the time, but he was planning on making me the number one lead foreign guy. He made me the top gaijin there. And the reason for this is because of my charisma. And he told me this right to my face. And because when I debuted, I went there for my first match in Japan. It was the 24th of July, 2010. And inside of that one day, I became a household name in Japan because I defeated Tajiri for the title on my first night there. And that made me a star. All of the different wrestling medias, Tokyo Sports, newspaper, everything. I was all over the place. Tajiri booked me in a way that he made me a star in his country overnight. Now, they have one wrestling magazine in Japan called Weekly Pro Wrestling. And it comes out every single week. And it's the number one wrestling magazine in the country. And in 2011, in January, they had a special edition of that magazine come out for the year-end awards for the year of 2010. And they have the top five most popular foreign wrestlers in the entire country. New Japan, All the different companies. And the readers in Japan can vote for their favorite foreign wrestlers. I was voted in the top 5 in the entire country out of 30 different organizations in Japan. I was voted in the top 5 after 5 months of being in Japan, with Kenny Omega in the same list. So for me, Japan was like a dream come true. For me, it was like the ultimate in my career, because when the people in Japan, when they love you, they really love you. They take you out to the restaurants. They pay the bill. They bring you gifts. I have samurai swords and things like that in my house today that people have brought me on the street. They bring it to you on the street. They go, oh, StarBuck. Oh, please take. This is my gift to you. And it's the most amazing thing. There's no other country in the world where they will teach or where they're going to treat you this way. Because when you're popular in Japan, they make you like a god.
Man, yes. My friend John will keep out the question. Listo, traduzco. No, pues John, vas a enloquecer. Creo que tú recuerdas la batalla en Europa de Michael versus Tajiri.
Uy, Tajiri. Oh.
Resulta que esa pelea en el 2010 fue tan determinante que Tajiri le dijo, ¿por qué no vienes a Japón? Resulta que Tajiri tiene una compañía llamada Smash. Y la meta de esa compañía es que sea una liga japonesa que tenga un elemento internacional, que tenga, digamos, cuota de otros países. De los 22 países donde ha luchado Michael, su mayor logro ha sido Japón para él, porque siempre tuvo una meta. Aquí nos dio una frase: siempre tengan una meta en su vida. La meta de él era Japón. Resulta que el match, él le ganó a Tajiri en Japón. Eso fue la batalla, estamos hablando del año 2010, esa fue la batalla del año allá. Y la más importante de
Weekly Pro Wrestling Magazine.
Weekly Pro Wrestling Magazine, la revista más importante de la semanal de Pro Wrestling en Japón, hizo un conteo donde le pidió al público que escogiera sus luchadores favoritos, y en el top 5 estuvo Michael, junto con Omega, junto con grandes luchadores de todas las ligas que tiene Japón. South Japan, North Japan, okay. Resulta que dice que en Japón hay una cultura, eso obviamente tiene que ver bastante con su religión, donde si tú triunfas más, sea en béisbol, sea aquí en el wrestling, te ven como un dios. Y eso llevaba a que la gente en la calle le dijera: oh, StarBuck, te invito a una cena. Él tiene espadas samuráis en su casa porque los fanáticos se las regalaban. Entonces, John Sebastián, el momento más importante de la carrera de Michael se da en Japón y obviamente en ese match contra Tajiri. Finally, we are going to talk about my favorite subject, music.
Mhm.
I am really scared, but here we are.
Mhm.
How does it feel to be member? I write it. How does it feel to be member of one of the greatest exponents of something I call the stoner doom sound of Finland? We play of one of my favorite bands, that's Reverend Bizarre, but we are going to talk about Stoner Kings. Stoner Kings got his masterpiece with Fought the World. How was it work with masters like Marco Hietala that I hope come back after the thing that happened with Nightwish, and the never forgotten guitar god Alexi Laiho and others?
Well, Alexi is one of my good friends. A lot of people don't know this, but I was Alexi's bodyguard. He actually asked me. I was his personal trainer and his bodyguard, and it was just in Finland, not for the international shows. But I got to know him in 2002, and we played with Stoner Kings. We opened up for a band that he was in at the time called Synergy, and this was in Finland. This was in Finland, and what happened was we hit it off right away as friends, and I think that we just had a chemistry. And I remember I still have a guitar just over there in my house here. I've got a guitar that he gave me about 10 years ago. As a gift. I said that I don't have an electric guitar right now, and the next time he came to see me, he had this guitar, and he just said, "Here's a guitar for you." So. We were friends, and there were two of our albums that I had Alexi play on, and I asked him, would he like to come and help? And he loved our music. He was one of the first like really big proponents, or how could you say, like supporters of Stoner Kings. In 2006, we had our Fuck the World album, and he did the solo for Mantric Madness. And it's like Jake E. Lee from Ozzy Osbourne's The Ultimate Sin album. That's what it reminds me of, his playing style on that song. And now in 2019, we did another album called Alpha Male. And he did the solo and the lead for a song called Down to Zero. So we had him twice on our different albums. And the thing is that it really struck me hard because he called me 2 days before Christmas. He called me, I think it was the 22nd of December, and we talked for about 20 minutes, and we were supposed to meet up as soon as the new year rolled around, and then I just heard on the 3rd of January that he died, and it was like getting hit with a lightning bolt, just out of the blue sky. Would never have suspected that, but. But when you're talking about the other guys that we had, like Marco Hietala, for example, I translated his book. His book is called Stainless, His Life Story, and I translated that for the international market into English just a couple of years ago. Yeah, so it's really, but I think like Stoner Kings as a band, though, I think like Reverend Bizarre is more like doom metal. It's not stoner. It's doom metal. Yes. And I also have a doom project. I don't know if you've heard it yet, but it's called Supernaut. Like the Black Sabbath song from Volume 4 called Supernaut. And then we have a song called, it's a music video that you can find on YouTube. It's called All Hope Is Lost. I think you'll like it.
Man, I will ask you a favor. With a friend, I am creating a sign. Please let me publish. I will find something of Supernaut because I love doom metal, and I want to like to my friends. Man, I was almost crying because Alexi for me is. Okay. Yo les seré rápido. Le pregunté sobre Stoner Kings y sobre su álbum Fuck the World, donde participaron varias personalidades famosas en Finlandia, como Marco Hietala de Nightwish, bueno, era de Nightwish, y Laiho, en paz descanse. Me dio datos, él fue el guardaespaldas de Alexi Laiho.
Ah,
Etsy la dijo,
really?
lo escuchó tocar con Stoner Kings cuando él estaba en Synergy, una excelente banda de power metal, y Alexi me dijo, me gusta tu estilo. Alexi se convirtió casi como en un ángel, participando en 2 solos de guitarras, en For the World, un estilo muy parecido, bueno, acá los fanáticos del rock, a los Black Sabbath, con Jake Lee, y en otro álbum posteriormente. Michael y Alexi hablaron el 24 de diciembre, habían quedado en reunirse, y pues ocurre la triste noticia de, pues, del fallecimiento de Alexi. Y pues Marco, resulta que Marco y Hietala, no solo Michael, pues tienen esa colaboración como músicos, sino que Michael es el traductor del libro, de la novela de Marco. O sea, oh. Y esto dicen también muy, pues porque yo le dije que la banda me recordaba mucho el estilo de Reverie Bizarre, que es como, pues para mí, mi banda favorita en Finlandia. Él dice que no, Stoner Kings es más un stoner, y él tiene una banda de doom metal llamada Supernaut, que ya mismo voy a buscar. I'm telling them that I will search Supernaut, man. I am subsided. Can you tell us the importance of the role of a narrator or a backing vocal? Talking about your amazing work with great bands as Lordi, Stratovarius, and my favorite one, you role on Unia with Sonata Arctica and that masterpiece called Caleb.
Well, you know, the thing is that every country that is, it's like if you're not natively English, you have a certain, how could you say, like in your pronunciation, you'll have certain intonations and certain, how could you say, like edgy, you know, it's not going to be clean English. It's going to be broken English. And in Finland, they also have that when they sing in the English language, a lot of the Finnish vocalists, they sing almost like phonetically, if you know what I mean. Do you know what phonetics is?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because you just make the sounds that you maybe you don't even understand what you're saying, but you make the sounds as they would be. Actually, the first Halloween album was sang phonetically by Kai Hansen, you know, so I think it was Kai, or was it Michael Kiske in the beginning, but I remember, at least I remember hearing that they, you know, the first Halloween albums were just phonetic. But the thing is that with the international market, the English-speaking market, Australia, the UK, Canada, and the United States, for example, now, the importance of clean English, especially when you're competing against the big names out there, like against acts that are like very established, it becomes more and more important that you have to have as clean as possible, and your lyrics cannot be naive. If there are certain things that, you know, they just don't translate well, the thought that you have in your own language, you can turn it into English word for word, and maybe the original meaning will get lost if you translate it according to how you think word for word it should go. And that's why you need to have somebody who understands your thought, with the thought that you're trying to get across, and that they can take that thought and they can mold it into English that is not just understandable, but English which sounds cool. Because rock and roll has to sound cool. Metal music has to sound cool. It cannot sound naive and retain its integrity. That's why, like, especially if you play hard metal, or like if you play, if you sing about serious themes or anything like that, you must have lyrics that are intelligent, or then lyrics that are cool. And that's where a lot of bands that are non-English speaking, or that they're like not from an English background, the problem is that they take their lyrics and their lyrics sound naive, and for the international market, it doesn't do them any favors. Plus, their pronunciation is edgy, it's off, it bothers your ear when you hear it. There's something that's just like, that didn't sound right. And when you get rid of these things, you step into an arena, which is what we call the international arena. Then you can compete with anybody out there, because your English is as close to perfect as you can be. And there's very few bands these days that are willing to go that distance anymore. Because the thing is that, bands can't make money anymore. It's the truth. Spotify, you're making shit money off of the listens on Spotify. The album sales that you have, the actual physical sales, the stores that would sell your album, there's so few of them anymore because everything is digital now. So artists are not making money off of their albums. They're making money off their merchandising and off their live touring. But off the actual album sales, they're not making money. So even if you make a music video, how do you might spend €5,000, $5,000 on a music video, but how will you make that money back? You can't. There's no place to monetize that. You can't sell it to a television station anymore. There's no more MTV that's going to pay to put your music video on their channel. There's none of that anymore. So in other words, bands will cut corners. They will take shortcuts, and they will not put the money where the money needs to be anymore because they can't make their investment back. That's why, my kind of service that I offer, there's very few artists that will still pay the extra money to clean up their English because of that one single fact that they cannot make that money back in any way, shape, or form anymore.
Le pregunté sobre su rol como narrador y como backing vocal, como vocalista, como corista en bandas importantísimas como Lordi, Stratovarius y pues mi favorita que son Antártica. Dice que es más por una razón de fonéticas. Obviamente al estar en Finlandia, la mayoría de bandas, por ejemplo, el primer álbum de Halloween fue cantado en fonético, o sea, el vocalista no sabía inglés, simplemente lo cantaba según cómo sonaba. Dice que muy pocas bandas ahora están dispuestas a pagar por ese servicio, que obviamente los impulsa a un público mucho mayor, porque pues en el rock, él dice, las letras no solo tienen que sonar a un inglés, digamos un inglés bien hablado, sino que tienen que ser o cool, o muy inteligentes, o muy osadas. Dice que es muy complejo ahora porque ya ninguna banda está viviendo de las ventas de sus discos porque Spotify destruyó el mercado. Ninguna banda está dispuesta a pagar $5,000 por un video musical porque ¿cómo lo recuperas? Ya no hay un MTV. Digamos que las bandas ya no, pues, ganan el dinero con su mercancía, pero ya no con las presentaciones porque no hay presentaciones en vivo. Y él pues se siente afortunado de haber podido estar en proyectos donde se requiriera no solo de su trabajo como narrador y como corista, sino como una persona que le ayudara a bandas de Finlandia en su fonética, que son de que el inglés sonara perfecto.
Y bueno, para poder ahondar el tema sobre lo que es Language in Finland y el libro de Michael, me gustaría antes poder expresarle una anécdota que yo vi sobre los Smash, sobre los 13 Smash, porque yo recuerdo muy bien que en el Masters 5 él derrotó a Omaha. Eso fue una experiencia totalmente buena. Y en el 6 pudo derrotar a Tajiri, que es una leyenda de wrestling. Además, en esos Smash me encantó, dile que me encantó la lucha que él se aliara con Tajiri y luchara contra Bushi, Mutot y Kondo. Eso fue la lucha increíble y yo sé que en la 5 más es muy memorable porque él obtuvo ese galardón, ese premio, o sea, ese cinturón y sobre todo en el de Bushi, que él se unió con Tajiri, fue en All New Japan Pro Wrestling, que fue ya en el 2012, luego de los Smash pasara.
We want me to tell you that he remembers that fight Smash in which you joined forces to defeat Tajiri with Omaha. He wants, but for not thinking long this interview, that he wants me to tell you that he's the match that he must remember for that amazing tag team that made you win that fight.
I think he's referring. I heard the names. It was All Japan Pro Wrestling. It was November of 2011. It was me and Akira Nagami and Tajiri against Keiji Muto, Bushi, and Shuji Kondo. That was a 6-man match.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, the thing is that I had one dream match in my career that was left the last 10 years. And that was a singles match. I always hoped that I could have one singles match against Keiji Muto. And I never got that. All I got was that 6-man tag. And I'm very happy for that, because I remember, you know, like I said before to you guys, I said that as a man, respect is everything. You know, if you're a man, you have no respect. If your peers and the people around you, if the people in your life don't respect you, and the other people that walk up to you, if they know who you are, and if there's nothing about you that raises automatic respect, then it's a lost cause. You're not worth anything as a person, especially as a man. This is the truth. And so when I say this, I draw a comparison now to Japan and that match that John is talking about, because in the dressing room before the match, Keiji Muto is a big star. He's one of the biggest stars ever out of Japan. And I remember he was in the dressing room, and I was, you know, changing into my wrestling gear. And then it was just before our match was going to go out and we're going to do the match. It was Akira Nagami, who was the former IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion in 1991. He was my tag team partner. And I heard Keiji Muto ask Akira Nagami. Muto looked over at me and he said, "How is he?" In English, he said, in front of my face to Akira Nagami, he said, "How is he?" And that's where Akira said, "He's good, European style." That's all he said. "He is very good, European style." And that's when Keiji Muto looked at me, he said, "Okay, you start the match with me."
Whoa.
This is what I call respect. When you have your peers that will go to bat for you, your peers who will stand up for you, and they will say that this guy is the real thing. He's the real deal. I believe in him. That's what Akira Nagami did for me. And I was able to start that match with Keiji Muto. And, you know, in pro wrestling, I understand that a lot of people these days, they criticize pro wrestling for being too choreographed. But I can tell you this, there was no choreography whatsoever in my exchange with Keiji Muto. It was only action and reaction. When we locked up, you had to feel what that guy was doing. It was hold for hold. You had to be on the ball. And that's where he tested you. He wanted to see, do you know the job? Can you wrestle? Can you actually do this thing? You don't speak a word about what you're going to do. You just get in there and you do it. And that's what I did with Keiji Muto. And that's one of the greatest memories of my career, because when you understand that how big of a star Keiji Muto is, and he's going to start the match with you, it's like the first song on an album. When you buy your new Metallica record or your new whatever album, it's that very first song. It has to catch you. It has to set you on fire. It has to make you believe. And if the first song on the album and the last song on the album win you over, what's in between is not so important. But the beginning and the end has to be rock solid. That's what happened in that match, and that was because of respect.
Thank you, Michael. I will say, John, van a enloquecer. Una anécdota sobre esa pelea. El sueño que siempre tuvo Michael en su carrera fue tener no un 6-2-6, sino 1-to-1, un match contra Keiji Muto. Es la estrella más grande de Japón. Él me dice, y creo que ustedes lo saben, que hablar de Keiji es hablar de una leyenda, un dios. En el dressing room, cuando Michael se estaba colocando su gear, su vestuario, Keiji se acercó a Akira Nagami, que era el del equipo, y le dijo en inglés perfecto, ¿cómo es? Akira le dijo esas palabras, European style, estilo europeo. he is good, él es bueno. Ese respeto que él sintió de Keiji, una leyenda preguntando sobre su estilo, es lo que lo hace recordar lo que él habla del honor y del respeto. Resulta que ese fue el momento decisivo para que en ese match comenzara entre Keiji y Michael, porque dijo, quiero empezar con él. Dice que generalmente se mira al wrestling como algo coreografiado. Dijo, tienes que batallar contra Keiji para darte cuenta que cada golpe es decisivo, que cada movimiento es decisivo, que cada bloqueo, cada jab que te daba era una forma de decirte, bueno, si tú no sabes reaccionar a esto, pues esto es la lucha.
En reacción.
Exacto. Entonces, él dice que esa es la prueba exacta de lo que es el respeto, Más cuando, y lo vuelvo a decir, cuando tú te das cuenta quién es Kate, y que él dice que lo define como cuando tú compras un disco y la primera canción te atrapa. No importa lo que haya en medio de una batalla, lo que haya en medio de tu vida, si la primera y la última canción son las mejores, es lo que hace. Wow.
¿Cuál es el futuro de Slam Wrestling Finland y ese recuerdo más grande que tiene? Y sobre el libro, ¿sí? Que me gustaría saber sobre en qué sitio se puede adquirir, envíos internacionales y también un recuerdo escribiéndolo. Solo esos dos.
Okay, Michael. Okay, Michael. Tell the people from Colombia or the people that is watching this when they can find your book, and tell us about a great memory that you got writing.
Great memory of what?
Writing your book.
Writing my book. Okay, yeah. Well, if you want to find me, you can find my company. It's slamrest.com. That's SLAMWRES.com. It's Slam Wrestling for short. But that's my wrestling company, and I run that company in Finland and in Estonia. That's one. And then if you want to find me otherwise, StarBuck.fi. StarBuck.fi is the other one, .Finland. If you want to see my bands or check out my bands, I have 4 bands for you that you can find where I'm a singer. One of them is called Angel of Sodom. And Angel of Sodom is like old school thrash metal from the Bay Area, like Old Testament, Exodus, things like this, like Old Creator. And if you like that style of old school thrash, you'll love my band Angel of Sodom. Then also I have Stoner Kings, as we talked about. Our last album was called Alpha Male. It's very, very masculine. You'll like it. You guys in South America, you understand what it's like to be macho, mano y mano. And, it makes the woman weak in the knees. It's good. It makes the girls wet. And
Latin lovers.
Yeah, Latin lovers. Hey, well, it's good to be, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Just make sure you have at least one eye if everybody else is blind. Anyway, in addition to that, I've got Crossfire, which is a Southern rock band. So CROSSFYRE, Crossfire. You can check that out. It's like, old Stevie Ray Vaughan. And it's, like maybe a bit of ZZ Top, things like that. That's that style of music right there. And then I have that doom metal band that I mentioned to you, which is Supernaut. So you can check that out. 4 different bands. They're all very different from one another. And then my business, of course, Slam Wrestling. You can find me there. And so that's pretty much where you can find me. But as far as my book, I wrote the book for 5 years. Between the year 2010, between 2015, for 5 years, I wrote that book. And the main part of the book I wrote on the road with my band, Crossfire, when I was every summer on tour in Europe. So in the tour van, as we're driving all around Europe, you have nothing to do but just like kill time. So what I would do is I'd have a laptop in the van itself, and I would write the book as we drove thousands and thousands of kilometers from different cities, to make the different dates. And then finally, 2017, the book came out. and Chris Jericho wrote the preface for it. On the back cover, you can see Chris Jericho, what he said about my book. And it's still available through Crowbar Press in the United States. It's crowbarpress.com. You can order the book from there. You can also find it on Kindle as an electronic, book, or like as an ebook. So, but for that book, I think that the main thing that really stands out for me, like writing the book itself, I think, is just all of those tours that we had with the band, and sitting in the van in the middle of summer. And it's, just for thousands of kilometers, you're driving all the way to Poland, from Finland to Poland. And I'm writing the book as we drive. So it was just a way to kill time. I think that's my fondest memory, is just sitting in the van and writing the book just to kill the time.
John, la memoria más grande que tiene escribiendo el libro, bueno, es que se hizo cuando estaba de gira con una de sus 4 bandas. Bueno, ya sabemos que está Stoner Kings, está Angel of Sun, pues tengo ahorita una pregunta sobre esa banda, está Supernaut, que es la banda que tengo que ir a escuchar ahorita mismo, y Crossfire. Crossfire es una banda de rock sureño. Dice que mientras estuvo en ese recorrido entre Finlandia y Polonia, fue que redactó ese libro, esas memorias, porque pues cuando hay una gira no hay mayor actividad que matar tiempo. Dice que y es lo que yo hablaba previamente con mi amigo José Sebastián antes de esta entrevista, Chris Jericho fue el que hizo la recomendación, está en la parte de atrás del libro. Todos sabemos muy bien que Chris, al igual que Michael, tiene una carrera como músico, su banda Fozzy. Entonces, esa es la memoria más grande que tiene. Se puede conseguir, bueno, las páginas web, está la de Slam Wrestling, está la de StarBuck.fi, está otra de las bandas que él mencionaba, obviamente, es que pues el último álbum de Stoner Kings, Alpha Male, es un álbum muy macho, entonces es que hablaba de ese tema, y que en Latinoamérica pues estamos los Latin Lovers, para poner a las chicas débiles en las piernas, y
muy bueno.
Puede ser conseguido en la página de Crowbar o en Kindle. Creo que es un buen material de lectura.
Me gustaría hablar un poco, ya para, yo creo que finiquitar el tema luchístico, es esa importancia, Michael, de que la industria americana viene buscando estas promesas o en sus roosters, estas nuevas superestrellas europeas. El incorporar, quizás voy a mencionar algunos nombres contemporáneos como el mismo McIntyre, Rusev, Cesaro. ¿Qué opinas acerca de estas nuevas superestrellas que llegan a la industria americana y el por qué esta industria quiere incorporar este tipo de superestrellas europeas que ahorita están, hablemoslo de nivel luchístico, muy por encima de los americanos, medianamente hablando?
John asked you about, do you hear the names, of course? What do you feel about that interest that the United States American industry got about those new European wrestlers? About John says that he sees that they are superior in their skills. So how do you feel about that interest that got the American lead for the European wrestlers right now?
Well, there's a catch-22 there, and I'll tell you what the way that because wrestling is a business. First and foremost, it's a business. It's not about the skill a lot of times. It's about what you can do as far as moving large amounts of money for your company. Mm-hmm. The reason why Cesaro, I believe, has been in WWE now for about almost 10 years, but he hasn't really become a main event guy. He's been semi-main event and he's been a tag team guy, and he's never really been like the big champion there, and he's never been the main event. The reason for this is because he comes from Switzerland, and Switzerland is not any size of a market sector. There's only about maybe a couple of different cities like Zurich in Switzerland where WWE could go and draw 10,000 people. It's the same as in Finland. I don't think that WWE, if they had a Finnish wrestler on the roster in WWE, it wouldn't mean anything. It would just be another guy. It'd just be like a small fish in a big pond. Because Finland is not, it's not a market sector that means anything. 6 million people doesn't mean a damn thing. It's too small to really move the needle. But if they found a big star for China, if they found a big star for Russia, if they find a big star out of Germany, let's say Walter's, if Walter wanted to go to wrestle in America, but what I heard is that he just wants to stay in Europe. He doesn't want to go to America. He wants to just be a European wrestler. But if he would want to go to America, Walter would have the chance because he's German, and Germany's a huge market. You can go to so many different cities in Germany, and you can draw so big crowds, and you can sell merchandise to so many tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people there. I don't think millions will buy your merchandise, but I think that, at least hundreds of thousands of people will buy your merchandise. And that's why if you're a wrestler from a country that it doesn't have a large population base, you will not be pushed because it's a business. Above all, it's a business, and you need to reflect the demographic that you represent needs to be a big demographic. So that's why wrestlers that, let's say, even Japan, Asuka will be pushed because the thing is that Japan is a big market. It's so many like millions upon millions of people there.
Yes.
Right? They've been looking for the big star to represent India and China now for many years. They haven't really found the big star yet. I mean, Great Khali was there for a bit, but the thing is that he couldn't really move. He was so slow with it. He wasn't like an exciting wrestler to watch, and I think for that reason he didn't have the longevity. They tried to push him as a main event guy when he came in, but then they dropped him down to the mid card very quickly. He just didn't have that certain thing that WWE looks for in their main talent. And the same thing is with China. They have only one girl on NXT, which is Xia Li, and Boa, her male friend. And it's like you've barely even seen Boa wrestle once or twice in the past year and a half. You've seen him wrestle 1 or 2 times. And Xia Li, she's been wrestling for a while, but she hasn't found that something yet. And it's only one person that represents millions and millions and millions of people out of China. They need to find many of them to open up the Chinese market. But they have to start from somewhere, and that's why they're trying now to restructure and to rebuild Xia Li. So, like, my opinion about the European wrestlers in WWE and about these new, like, different countries is that unless you come from a big demographic, like from a country that has millions upon millions of people, like China or like Japan or like UK or like Germany or like India, it doesn't mean anything. All the smaller countries, Sweden, Norway, Finland, they don't mean a damn thing. It doesn't matter how good you are as a wrestler, but you can't move the needle. You cannot sell domestically enough that they will make you the feature star. So that you can translate that part of it first, and then I'll answer the next question.
Ok. John, creo que ahí escuchaste. La razón, acá dice que hay como una trampa. En las ligas casi, en Estados Unidos casi no se fijan en los skills, sino se fijan en lo demográfico. ¿Por qué? Por Cesaro, resulta que al ser de Suiza, él no lo han movido a eventos principales, a main events, porque saben que si llevan un evento a Suiza, no va a obtener las entradas si lo llevaran a un evento en Alemania, por ejemplo, a países que tienen una demografía más grande. Es por eso que la WWE se ha concentrado en conseguir estrellas, por ejemplo, en China, y están en esa búsqueda, ¿no? La gran estrella en la India, porque el gran Khalil lo intentaron convertir en un evento principal, y por la lentitud que él tenía, era un sujeto que podía ser derribado muy, muy fácil. A pesar de, obviamente, todos sabemos, ¿no? El gran Khalil, que era altísimo, un personaje súper, súper alto. Dice que se está haciendo el marketing con Saya, con su partner, pero todavía no se ha encontrado la gran estrella. Hay un luchador en Alemania que, pues, que tuviste, que ha querido ser llevado, creo que es Michael, que ha querido ser llevado a Estados Unidos y él le ha dicho que no, yo sigo en Europa, pero que sí se están fijando en esa estrella porque dicen, esta persona es la que nos va a traer el dinero en Alemania, que saben que se puede vender muchísima mercancía. Entonces, esa es la trampa. Dicen que no les importa en la liga los skills que tienes, sino cómo en esa nación se puede hacer ese marketing.
Mercadotecnia.
Michael, defina en una palabra Slam Wrestling Finland. Yo lo felicito por ese labor que él ha hecho.
Michael, just for end now, define one word, Slam Wrestling Finland. One word.
One word? I give you one sentence. Welcome back to wrestling, because we don't do sports entertainment. What we do is, I say that I'm in the make-believe business. I make you believe. And that with my company, that's one of the things that I really want to do, is that I want to make people believe in wrestling again. And that means to make it more real, to bring reality back to wrestling, and to make you believe what you're seeing. Because I don't think that anybody out there, I think that there's enough theatrics. There's enough, how could you say, stuff out there that it doesn't look like you can really buy it. It doesn't look like you can believe what you're seeing. But if you can make people believe once again, and you can touch their heart, like Macho Man did back in the day, and, Ric Flair did back in the day. And if you can make people emotionally invested in what you're doing and make them feel something, that's what Slam Wrestling is going to do. We're going to make you believe again.
Thank you, man. Before I translate, I will ask you a favor. I will talk to a friend. We are making a sign, a metal sign.
Mm-hmm.
You can let me publish your bands, talking about your career.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to my friend. You can let me do.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Dice que más que una palabra es una frase. Bienvenidos de vuelta al wrestling. Dicen que que se ha tenido que luchar mucho para quitar esa imagen de que el wrestling es falso. Y lo que se logra con el Slam Wrestling Finland es eso, es demostrar esa credibilidad, esa pasión, esa entrega para pues devolverle el lugar que merece el wrestling como un deporte, como una disciplina.
Wow, Michael, muchas gracias por esta oportunidad.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. And send me the link once it's up, and I can repost it.
Ok, que John le envíe el link apenas lo tenga para repostearlo.
Claro que sí. Gracias, Michael, por esta oportunidad. Sebastián, Andrés, en serio, muy admirado por usted y espero que tenga mucho éxito en
John is talking about us. We hope that many success for you. We are very honored, man. And by myself, I will speak to my friend. I will write to John. He write you if the magazine comes up.
Okay, great. Okay, guys. All right. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.